go. CUPE. Oh, yes. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, Charles.
What's your name?
Steve Drost, President of CUPE 1418. And we're here today at the legislature because we have serious concerns with what this Liberal government's doing. They're trying to privatize a lot of services, but they're also trying to change a lot of the legislation around WorkSafe New Brunswick. And I just learned yesterday that we have a lot of employers in this province that are saying we need to reduce the rates that they have to pay. Well, we are at some of the lowest rates there are across Canada, and they raised them 30%, and they keep going on in the news of how they've raised them up to 30%. They're still a long ways away from where they were in the 1990s, and I've also learned that that businesses are now getting actually rebates from WorkSafe New Brunswick, and I heard that the amount was that over $130 million were given back to employers last year. And what they're doing is they're actually taking away the services that injured men and women and the working people of this province deserve when they're out working for other people and get injured. So we're very, very concerned, and we're not going to take this lightly, and the Labour movement is rallying because this is unacceptable. You work in this province, you get injured, you deserve to be treated properly.
I have a cousin. Her husband was injured about 20 years ago.
Yes.
Lost her home. The guy got addicted to prescription drugs.
Yes.
And they lost. She's a sweetheart. Him too.
Yes.
A good guy. And you know they were one of the first one to be prescribed painkillers.
Yes.
They got addicted, lost everything, and finally on their own. They went through this panel, what do you call it, appeal.
Oh, yes.
Appeal panel.
Process,
they got, what's his name? Shalala?
Yes.
You know him?
Shalala.
You know him?
Yes, he's actually a worker advocate.
How do we get a guy like that? They're so thankful to him.
Yes.
How do we get a guy like that get more fund to help the injured workers?
Well, interestingly enough, one thing about CUPE is if we see people that are doing good work, if we can find a way to support them, we can. And I'm very proud to say that the CUPE New Brunswick division actually have been sponsoring him to a degree, and we'll continue to sponsor people out there that are trying to protect the men and women and all workers in this province, whether they're unionized or not. See, that's one thing.
Whether they're unionized or not, there, I like that.
We don't fight for just us. It's for all working people, and for corporations to be putting so much pressure on the government to try and change the legislation for worker injuries, injured workers, totally unacceptable, and we're not going to take it lying down.
How can we fund more money for people like Shalala that wants to fight for, like you said, the non-union people? How would that go? And then to tell the government to smart the hell up?
Well, and it's CUPE it's CUPE unions, it's other unions, it's other working groups, and there's got to be a way to fund people like Mr. Shalala. I understand he's a very, very good workers advocate.
Very good, very good.
And he's really helped people that have been really getting screwed over by the system, basically.
Yeah.
I don't like to use that kind of words, but the reality is these families, they destroy families, they deny them the benefits and services they deserve, but they have enough money. They've got $1.5 billion in a trust fund, WorkSafe does, and they're giving $130 million back to companies last year, but they can't afford to pay for the injured workers.
And the worst thing about it, if you have an appeal and you win, something that happened 18 years ago, they're not going to go with the inflation rate.
No, of course not.
They go by, okay, a dollar was worth, whatever it was worth, a dollar now is worth $10, but we're going to pay you the $1 that it was 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I've been a taxpayer. I've worked my whole life here in this province, and one thing that really, really bothers me is the fact that our corporations and politicians are too close. It's very questionable. A lot of the policies, decisions, and legislation that go through are very questionable, and you really have to stop and think: is this for the average person, or is this for all New Brunswickers, or who are the legislators?
Mr. Irving, of course. Don't answer that.
Who are the legislature? Who are the legislature? Who are our elected politicians representing?
Oh my God! Yeah, you got to be all wound up now. One more thing: was that meeting open yesterday?
Was the meeting open
to the public?
Yes, it was.
It was.
Oh no! The one with WorkSafe?
Yeah.
No, it was not.
Okay, one final word.
Yes.
How much profit did WorksafeNB made?
Well, I know they have $1.5 billion in trust, and I know they gave $130 million back to corporations last year, but they don't have enough money to pay for the injured worker.